Let's start with the first phrase that should send alarm bells ringing in any senior's mind. You're overreacting. Now, on the surface, it may seem like a harmless, even well-meaning statement. Maybe your adult child says it when you express concern about a financial decision, or when you question something they said or did, or when you feel hurt by a tone or a comment. But underneath this simple phrase is a subtle, powerful attempt to shrink your emotions, dismiss your wisdom, and override your instincts. And I'll say it clearly, if you're over 60 and your child regularly says this to you, it's time to pause and reconsider the health of that relationship. Because this phrase, whether they know it or not, is often used as a tool of emotional invalidation. It's not just that they disagree, it's that they're telling you, your feelings are not real, your concern is not legitimate, your reaction doesn't matter. Let's break this down from a medical and psychological perspective. As we age, emotional regulation becomes more refined, not less. The brain processes social interactions with more care. That means if something bothers you deeply, it's not because you're irrational. It's because your life experience is sounding a warning. When a senior says, "This doesn't feel right," or "That hurt me," we should lean in and listen, not wave it off. But when an adult child replies, "You're overreacting," it introduces doubt. It makes you question your own emotional compass. And for many older adults, that leads to self-silencing. They stop bringing things up. They start walking on eggshells. They internalize blame. Now here's why that's dangerous. Silence in old age is not peace. It's stress. And chronic emotional stress, especially from family dynamics, has real physical effects. It raises cortisol, weakens the immune system, worsens sleep, and increases the risk of depression and even cognitive decline. That's not theory, that's biology. So when your child uses "you're overreacting" as a default reply, it's not just rude. It's a toxic pattern that could be quietly harming your health. Let me share a story. A patient of mine, Mrs. Adler, age 76, came in complaining of heart palpitations and insomnia. After several tests, her heart was fine. But during our conversation, she told me how her son, whom she had recently moved in with, kept brushing off her concerns. When she asked him to speak more kindly, he replied, "You're too sensitive, Mom. You're overreacting." Over time, she started believing him. She stopped speaking up. She felt invisible in her own home. When I asked her, "Do you feel safe emotionally?" she broke down in tears. You see, emotional safety is just as vital as physical safety. And for many older adults, emotional invalidation from children becomes a chronic, invisible wound. So what should you do when you hear this phrase? First, don't argue. That only reinforces their belief that you're being dramatic. Instead, calmly respond with clarity. "I'm not overreacting. I'm expressing how I feel, and I expect to be heard." Second, set a boundary. Let them know that dismissing your emotions is not acceptable. You might say, "If you continue to downplay my concerns, I'll have to stop this conversation." Third, walk away, literally or emotionally. If the pattern continues, you don't have to cut ties, but you do have the right to withdraw emotionally from conversations that harm you. And finally, reclaim your voice. Talk to a therapist, a friend, a senior group. Don't let your perspective be silenced. You are not overreacting. You are reacting to years of wisdom, experience, and insight. Your feelings matter. Your intuition matters. And any child who repeatedly says otherwise is not protecting your heart. They're slowly breaking it. You don't need to worry about that. When reassurance turns into control. Let's move on to the second phrase that sounds comforting on the surface, but often signals something deeply troubling underneath. You don't need to worry about that. It might be said casually. When you ask about a bank transaction, question a medical bill, or wonder about a household decision. Your child may say it with a smile, with a hand on your shoulder, with a tone that sounds soothing. But what they're really doing is closing a door to information, to agency, and often to your right to participate in your own life. Now, I want to be very clear here. Not all reassurances are bad. A loving child might say, "Don't worry about dinner, I've got it." Or, "You don't need to worry about calling the plumber. I already did." That's kindness. That's service. That's support. But when the phrase is used to shut down your interest in serious matters, especially regarding your money, health, or living arrangements, then we have a problem. A big one. Let's talk about why this phrase is so damaging for seniors. As we age, one of the greatest threats to our health isn't disease, it's loss of autonomy. When people start making decisions for us instead of with us, something starts to break inside. We feel like passengers in our own life. We stop asking questions. We lose clarity. And that disempowerment leads to stress, confusion, and in some cases, abuse. Yes, I said it, abuse, because some adult children, whether through control, greed, or misguided protection, will use phrases like, "You don't need to worry about that," to hide financial exploitation, to take over bank accounts, to sign papers without explaining, to move a parent into a care facility without full transparency. I once had a patient named Mr. Langley, 82, who came to me confused about why he couldn't access his savings. His son had taken over as power of attorney. When Mr. Langley asked about it, the reply was always the same. "Don't worry, Dad. You don't need to worry about that. I've got it covered." It wasn't until a social worker intervened that we learned the son had been using the money for personal debt. Mr. Langley's financial independence was gone. His trust had been shattered. Now again, not every child who says this phrase has bad intentions. But even when used innocently, it can create a dangerous habit of withholding. And withholding creates distance, confusion, and vulnerability. So what can you do if your child often says this to you? First, ask for clarity. Calmly say, "I understand you're trying to help, but I still want to understand what's going on. Please walk me through it." Second, affirm your role. Remind them, "This affects me, and I deserve to be part of the decision." Third, write it down. Keep notes of any major topics they dismiss. If you feel something is being hidden from you, talk to a trusted third party, a financial advisor, a doctor, or an elder care attorney. Fourth, resist the temptation to withdraw. Some seniors stop asking because they don't want to bother their kids. But silence is not safety, it's surrender. And you deserve better. Here's a mindset shift I teach all my patients. You are still the CEO of your life. Your age doesn't change that. Delegating tasks is fine. But surrendering full control without understanding the details, that's not aging, it's erasure. So if you ever hear that phrase, you don't need to worry about that. Ask yourself, is this love speaking, or is this a wall going up? If it feels like a wall, it probably is. And if your child resists transparency, that's a red flag. No loving relationship fears questions. You owe us for everything we've done. When gratitude becomes guilt. Let's now turn to a phrase that can pierce deeper than any insult and twist the sacred bond between parent and child. You owe us for everything we've done. At first glance, it may sound like frustration, a moment of emotional overwhelm. Maybe your son or daughter has been helping you with doctor's appointments, managing medications, or driving you to physical therapy. And one day, in a heated moment, they say, "After all I've done, "You owe me." Or perhaps they don't say it in anger. Maybe they say it with a tired sigh, with passive-aggressive undertones. But however it's said, this phrase carries a message that no senior should ever be forced to swallow. That your worth, your freedom, and your dignity are conditional. Let me say this plainly. Love is not a debt. Care is not a contract. When your child helps you in your old age, they are honoring a relationship, not collecting a bill. But when they turn that care into a transaction, when they make you feel like you're a burden or a debtor, that is not love. That is emotional manipulation. I've seen this pattern more times than I can count in my practice. Older adults come in, struggling with unexplained anxiety, loss of appetite, tension headaches. And when we dig deeper, we find a toxic emotional loop playing at home. It often sounds like, "We put our lives on hold for you. You're lucky we haven't put you in a home. Do you know how much stress you've caused us?" These are not just complaints. They're power moves meant to shame you into silence, to remind you that any help you receive is conditional. And often, this emotional blackmail is a prelude to coercion. "Since we help so much, you should let us handle your finances. We deserve a say in your will. You should sell your house and move in with us. After all, we've done everything for you." Sound familiar? Now let's be clear. Gratitude goes both ways. Yes, it's kind and right to appreciate your children's help. But true gratitude is freely given, not demanded. And your past as a parent, decades of raising them, feeding them, protecting them, sacrificing for them, is not erased because you now need help with daily tasks. You do not owe your children your freedom. You do not owe your children your silence. You do not owe your children your dignity. If they truly loved you, they would offer support without scorekeeping. That's what family does. That's what healthy relationships look like. Now let's talk about the emotional impact of this phrase. When seniors feel like a burden, their mental health deteriorates rapidly. They stop asking for help even when they need it. They isolate. They feel guilt where there should be connection. And over time, that guilt eats away at their confidence, their independence, and even their physical health. I've seen it cause ulcers, blood pressure spikes, and chronic fatigue, all from emotional strain. So what do you do when you hear this phrase? First, don't argue, don't defend, don't beg. Simply respond with calm strength. Love isn't a transaction. If you feel overwhelmed, we can talk about solutions, but guilt is not one of them. Second, protect your emotional space. If your child continues to use guilt as a tool, create distance. That may mean less time together. That may mean involving a third party, another family member, counselor, or elder advocate. Third, remind yourself of your worth. You have given years, decades of your life in service to your family. That history matters. That legacy matters. You are not a debtor. You are a parent. And your need for support does not erase your role or your respect. Lastly, write this somewhere you can see it every day. I am not a burden. I am a blessing who has loved deeply and who deserves love without condition. You're just getting old and confused. The cruelty of gaslighting by those you love. There are few phrases more damaging to a senior's dignity than this one. You're just getting old and confused. It might be muttered with a smirk, dropped into a heated disagreement, or thrown out casually to dismiss your memory, your instincts, or even your voice. But let me tell you as plainly as I can, this is gaslighting, and it can erode your mental health and confidence faster than almost any insult. Let's understand what gaslighting really is. It's when someone tries to make you doubt your own reality, when they rewrite what happened and then act like you're the one who got it wrong. Over time, it makes you question your own memory, your judgment, even your sanity. And when it comes from your own children, that betrayal runs deep. Here's what's most tragic about this phrase. It often targets the very strength that comes with age, wisdom. Seniors often have sharper pattern recognition, deeper emotional insight, and stronger gut instincts than younger adults. You've seen more, you've lived through more, and you know when something doesn't feel right. But when your adult child says, "You're just confused," they're not just disagreeing. They're trying to dismiss your concern by attacking your mental clarity. Let me share a patient's story. A man named Gerald, 81, came to me concerned that his daughter had changed the terms of a joint bank account. When he confronted her about it, she laughed and said, "Dad, you're just getting old and confused. You must have signed that years ago." But Gerald was sharp. He had detailed notes, and after reviewing the papers together, I confirmed she had indeed changed the terms without his full understanding. That wasn't forgetfulness. That was financial manipulation, and the gaslighting phrase was her way of covering it up. Now, yes, it's true that memory changes with age. Some forgetfulness is normal, but that doesn't mean every mistake is confusion, and it certainly doesn't give anyone the right to undermine your credibility. Here's how this behavior harms seniors. Self-doubt. You begin second-guessing every decision. Fear of speaking up. You stop asking questions or raising concerns. Withdrawal. You pull away from family, friends, and social interactions. Depression. Feeling unheard and invalidated can trigger hopelessness. So what can you do when someone says, "You're just old and confused"? 1. Keep written records. This is your best defense. Write down conversations. Keep copies of any financial or medical paperwork. If someone tries to change the story, you'll have a paper trail. Stay sharp, intentionally. Challenge your mind daily. Read, do crosswords, watch documentaries, join a discussion group, take notes. This doesn't just improve memory, it reinforces your confidence in your intellect. Involve a third party. If your child continues to dismiss you, bring in someone objective. This could be a doctor, a family friend, or even an attorney. Having a witness can stop gaslighting in its tracks. Set verbal boundaries. Say it clearly. "Please don't speak to me that way. I may be older, but I'm not confused, and I won't accept being treated like I am." Trust your gut. If something feels off, speak up. The people who love you will listen. The ones who don't may try to discredit you. Here's a truth I want you to remember every day. Age does not equal confusion. Experience is not dementia, and suspicion is not forgetfulness. You have earned the right to be heard. You have earned the right to be believed. You're being selfish when caring for yourself is framed as a crime. If you're over 60 and you've ever heard the words "you're being selfish" come out of your child's mouth, especially after expressing your own needs or desires, please stop and take a deep breath. Because this phrase, more than most, is a manipulation trap disguised as moral high ground. Let's unpack it. As we age, one of the hardest battles we face is not against time or illness, it's against erasure. Our wants, our preferences, our comfort can slowly be pushed aside for the sake of the family. And when we resist, when we say no, when we ask for respect, when we push back, we are often slapped with the label of selfishness. But here's the truth, and I need you to let it sink in. Advocating for yourself is not selfish, it is survival. I once worked with a woman named Clara, 79, who told her daughter she didn't want to move in with her. Clara enjoyed her privacy. She had her church, her garden, her routine. But her daughter, already planning to convert a guest room, became angry. "You're being selfish, Mom," she said. "After everything I've done, you can't even live with us?" That single sentence triggered months of guilt and tension. But let's pause here. Clara wasn't being selfish. She was exercising autonomy. She was honoring her own mental health. She was choosing the life that gave her joy. And that isn't selfish. It's wise. Too often, adult children define selfish as doing something I don't like. If you don't follow their plan, if you don't hand over control, if you don't agree with their ideas, you must be selfish. That's not only unfair, it's emotional coercion. Here are common examples. You say you don't want to sell your home. They say, "You're being selfish by keeping it." You don't want to babysit every weekend. They say, "We need you. You only think of yourself." You ask for financial independence. They say, "You don't care how hard it is for us." In each of these cases, the word selfish is being used as a weapon to shut down your boundaries. Now, from a clinical perspective, here's what happens when seniors internalize this guilt. You start saying yes when you mean no. You overextend yourself and burn out. You feel resentful, but stay silent. Your health suffers from stress, overwork, or anxiety. That's not peace. That's emotional erosion. So how do you fight back? Start with a powerful phrase. "It's okay to take care of myself." Say it often. Say it out loud. Let it replace the voice of guilt. When someone says you're selfish, respond with calm clarity. "No, I'm setting a boundary that protects my health and my joy." That's not selfish. That's self-respect. You can also ask this question in return. Would you call a friend selfish for doing what they need to feel safe and happy? Most likely they wouldn't. So why apply a different standard to you? Remember, you spent decades putting your family first, raising children, working, sacrificing. Now, in your later years, wanting peace, freedom, or rest is not only reasonable, it's essential. And if your child continues to guilt trip you, it may be time to reevaluate the power dynamic. Love does not demand self-abandonment. Healthy relationships include space for no. Lastly, give yourself permission to enjoy things without shame. Enjoy your quiet mornings. Enjoy your independence. Enjoy your hobbies, your friends, your alone time. You are not on this earth to endlessly prove your usefulness. You've earned the right to live for you. We're only doing this for your own good. When love is used to take away your voice. Let's end with a phrase that wears a mask of kindness but often hides something far more troubling beneath the surface. We're only doing this for your own good. It's a phrase that sounds reassuring at first. Who wouldn't want someone looking out for their best interests? Who wouldn't want a family that's stepping in out of love? But when this phrase is used to silence, to override your choices, or to take control of your life without your full understanding or consent, it crosses a dangerous line. Let's call it what it often is: emotional gaslighting dressed as care. This phrase tends to show up in moments where your autonomy is under threat. We moved your savings into a joint account for your own good. We've scheduled you to move into assisted living for your own good. We took away your car keys for your own good. We've been handling your medications and doctor visits. You don't need to worry anymore. Now let's be clear. In some situations, intervention may be necessary. If a parent is truly unsafe, cognitively impaired, or physically at risk. But here's the problem. This phrase is too often used prematurely, carelessly, or manipulatively. The danger lies in the assumption that just because you're older, you no longer get a say, that your input doesn't matter, that decisions can be made about you, not with you. I once had a patient named Dolores, 83, who came into my office devastated. Her daughter had signed her up for a senior living facility without ever visiting it with her. "We're only doing this for your own good," her daughter said. But Dolores wasn't ready to leave her home her garden, her neighbors, or her independence. She felt betrayed. And worse, she felt invisible. Because that's what this phrase does. It renders you powerless under the illusion of protection. Here's the truth. Seniors do not lose the right to self-determination just because they've celebrated more birthdays. Your voice matters. Your preferences matter. Your experiences deserve respect, not replacement. So what should you do when you hear "it's for your own good" and it doesn't sit right? First, ask for transparency. Say, "I appreciate your concern, but I want to understand the full details. Show me what you've done, what options were considered, and why you think this is the best path." Second, insist on participation. Let them know you are not a bystander in your own life. "I may be older, but I'm still capable of making decisions about my care, my home, and my money." Third, bring in an advocate. This could be a social worker, elder law attorney, friend, or trusted relative. Sometimes just having a neutral party present shifts the power dynamic and brings fairness into the discussion. Fourth, document everything. If major changes are happening, especially around finances or housing, keep written records, request copies, and stay informed. Knowledge is power. And finally, trust your gut. If it feels wrong, it probably is. If it feels rushed, demand more time. If it feels controlling, push back. Even when you love your children, you are not obligated to accept every decision they make in your name. Let's rewrite this phrase into something healthier. We want to help, but we want your opinion first. Let's figure out what works best for you. Your voice leads the way. We're just here to support. That is love. That is respect. That is how families grow stronger, not more divided. So to every senior watching this, if you ever feel dismissed, controlled, or overridden in the name of your own good, remember, you are not a project. You are a person, and no one has the right to take away your autonomy under the false flag of affection. Stand tall, speak clearly, and walk away from anyone, even family, who refuses to hear you. If this series opened your eyes to patterns in your family dynamic, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more honest conversations about aging, boundaries, and emotional health. Let's build a world where seniors are respected, heard, and empowered, not patronized. You deserve that. You always